Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of GGRC, the show where we talk about interesting news tidbits from the gaming industry over the past week. But before we jump into the news, we talk about what I've been playing. Now, this week has been a bit tough for me to play games, sort of like last week. Just been really busy with my normal job here. You know, I didn't get a lot of time to play through too many games, but starting off, we'll get it out of the way because we've been talking about it every week, but Breath of the Wild. Zelda Breath of the Wild, of course, to be exact. I am still playing that. I remember from what I said last week, I was deciding whether I wanted to finish up the game and defeat Ganon, or if I wanted to go search for more shrines. And turns out I want to search for more shrines, so that's what I did. One night this week, I got a few hours in and found a bunch of shrines and everything, and that's pretty much all I did in Zelda. And then moving on from that, I ended up playing Splatoon 2 during the global test fire last week on Friday and Saturday. I would say, I think it was 2 of the hours that they had available I was able to play. Now, this is probably the most exciting part of this week for me in regards to video games, because I absolutely love the first Splatoon game. And this new one, Splatoon 2, is just more of the same, because that's what I want, really. One of the big changes in the new Splatoon is that they swapped the jump button. It used to be, let's see if I'm looking at the gamepad right now, it used to be X, and now it's B, and the X button is now the map button. So I kept hitting X, which would bring the map up, and I'm like, whoa, you know, all of a sudden the screen is gone. I can't see what I'm doing here. And then I'd have to remember that B is actually jump, so that was a little bit annoying to get used to, because I was so used to hitting X to jump. But besides that, getting used to that or whatever, the game plays great. They pretty much gave you a loadout for 4 or 5 different, I think, yeah, it was 4 different weapons, so whatever weapon you picked, you actually got to use a specific weapon with a specific grenade and a specific special move. So whatever you were doing in that game was relative to whatever weapon you picked. So I'm a roller guy, so I got to, you know, play with the exploding, what grenade is, like the paint can grenade that you throw and it sticks to the wall, and then poof, and you know, paint just goes everywhere. And the other, this was a new special ability that hasn't been in Splatoon yet, but it's one where he basically, your character jumps up in the air and does this like spike of paint or ink below them. And just, you know, massive amount of damage you can do to, like, you have this basic, like, radius circle that you can do damage in, and when you paint, or rather, within that radius, you paint that full circle, but anybody on the opposite team that's caught in the circle is just, poof, splatted. And that felt really good. So actually the character setup they had in there that they set up for each weapon and whatever felt pretty good. I gave each weapon at least once playthrough, but the roller, I always stick with the roller. It's my favorite, but needless to say, as much as I'm talking about it, I am very much looking forward to Splatoon 2 when that comes out this summer. So there was one more game that I did get to check out this week. I got to play a little bit of it last night, not much, maybe about a half hour before I went to bed. It's mostly because I was excited to check it out, and that is Rain World. Now, I looked it up, and I think it was 4 years ago that I actually backed this game. It was originally supposed to come out, no, I'm sorry, yeah, it's like 4 years and change. So I backed this back in 2014, and it was originally supposed to come out in December of 2014. So yeah, almost 5 years later, it's finally out. It's called Rain World, and in Rain World, you play as this little white slug cat, and the slug cat can maneuver his way through different tubes to get through different areas of this interesting little world that you're in. There's enemies all over the place that want to eat you. There's little bugs and flowers that you eat, so that way it keeps you powered up and ready to hibernate whenever you find the next checkpoint. But from the half hour that I played, I reached the first hibernation point, and I explored a little bit after that. I spent a good probably 10 or 15 minutes exploring the habitat after that, and the game feels like it's going to be a pretty difficult game. So if anybody's out there looking for a really sort of different take on the Metroidvania style of game, and it's got sort of a survival edge to it, this is going to be a game you want to check out. But I just can't believe it took them that long to release this game. It feels really cool. There's a lot of cool systems in it going on that it feels like And I haven't even really, scratched the surface of what's in this game. I really don't know how long it is, but you can tell that there's going to be a lot to it as far as like learning the mechanics and the physics and everything like that. But wow, yeah, 4 years and change till this came out. So just a lesson to anybody out there looking to get into game development. These things take time. You're not going to announce a game and then release it 6 months later, no matter what these big companies tell you about annual releases. If you look at big series like Call of Duty, they actually got 3 different development houses making 3 different Call of Duty games at the same time. So the Call of Duty game that you're playing one year is developed by a different company that releases it the next year and then the year after that. So just keep that in mind, that if you are a small development house trying to make a game that actually has some lasting appeal or some appeal in any way, shape, or form that looks unique compared to other games, it's going to take you a little time to develop that. So I'm really looking forward to getting more into Rain World, though, because it seems like a really interesting world to explore. So the news this week was a little bit scant, but you know what? I went through and I found some of the news items that I thought was most interesting for the week, and here is our news item of the week, and that is that Starcraft is getting a remaster this summer. But wait. You're like, oh, that's the news item, that an old game is getting a remaster? Lots of companies are doing that with their games nowadays. Not just that, but that Blizzard is actually making the original Starcraft, the original anthology, Brood War. They're making that free. You can go and download that. I believe it's supposed to be available today, and if not today, it should be this weekend or maybe early next week. Regardless, soon after you watch this, you're going to be able to go, and if you don't own it already, you can download the original Starcraft anthology from the 90s for free. So this summer, they're actually releasing the remaster, though. The remaster has a lot of updated sprites, a lot of updated art, and it's going to work in not only 1080p, but 4K. So it's going to be future-proof, at least for the next however many, 10 years or so. So I thought that was really cool that Blizzard is kind of stepping out of their comfort zone. And they've been doing this lately, the past 5 years or so. They've been releasing a lot of their classic games for free that you can download and play, no questions asked. And it looks like Starcraft, which is one of their biggest franchises, you got your Warcraft, Diablo, and your Starcraft, those top 3. One of their biggest franchises, they're making their original game for free to download for everybody. I think that is huge news, and for anybody who hasn't had the chance to play StarCraft, it's a really cool game, and it's comparable to what Warcraft was back in the 90s as well. So definitely worth checking out. Definitely recommend checking that out once it's available for free. And for that matter, the remaster looks like it's going to be a really beautiful thing, and it might be worth checking out this summer as well. Now, you might be thinking that this next news item was probably supposed to be the news of the week, but I would disagree, and that's probably based on some bias from me, and that's that Destiny 2 has been announced. Now, the reason why I'm a little biased against this is because I didn't really play Destiny 1, and by didn't really, I mean not at all. I watched a buddy of mine play a little bit of it. I don't know, it wasn't really getting to me, I didn't do much for me when I was watching it. I mean, it looked alright, I don't know. I just, at the time when it came out, I was not in the mood for another loot-based game. I had played too many up to that point, played a lot of Borderlands up to that point, played a lot of, Diablo 3, and this looked like a really pretty version of those games sort of combined, minus all the dumb humor from Borderlands. Regardless, Destiny 2 was sort of leaked, and then it was officially announced this week, so those of you who are excited for Destiny, you have time here to get hyped for Destiny 2. Now, there are a couple weird caveats here, though, with Destiny 2. The fact of the matter is that they've come out and said that your original character from Destiny 1 will not be importable or be able to be imported into Destiny 2 in any way, shape, or form. They might throw out like a mount or a special, item or gun or something to your character for having a Destiny 1 save or spending so much time in Destiny. I really don't know. It could happen. But this kind of threw me off because I feel like I remember when the original Destiny was announced at E3, they sort of came out and said, hey, we have a 10-year plan for this game, and what we're going to do is sort of keep bolting onto this one game. But I guess that didn't end up working out, because Destiny 2 has been announced, and it doesn't sound like it's going to be a bolt-on game for the original Destiny. It sounds like it's going to be its own thing. And that's pretty weird to me, because they made that promise. They even said that during the, I could be mistaken, maybe I'm wrong. But regardless, I remember them saying something about that. But But from what I've been hearing in all the different podcasts I listen to and news feeds that I read, that the original Destiny had a lot of problems, and not so much on the player side, but more on the development side. I guess it would take them, an hour for them to load up a portion of the map for them to edit. If they needed to make an update to Destiny in any way, shape, or form, it took them a long time to create that update. God forbid if it ever crashed and lost those updates, and they'd have to wait for it to load back up again. And I don't know what platform they're using, what engine it is. I don't know if it's an in-house built engine or the whatever engine Halo's using or whatever, because it is Bungie. But regardless, I guess it sounded like it was a little bit of a pain in the ass, to put it lightly, to actually develop pieces of this game and update it. So I don't know. What do you guys think of Destiny 2 being sort of its own separate thing? There's got to be some Destiny players out there that are a little disappointed by this, but maybe then again, you don't really care. Maybe you're just ready for a brand new game and engine and everything. I don't know. I'm a little torn on it personally, so thought it was a little bit weird that they announced it that way. So id and Bethesda have come out to say that Quake Champions, the closed beta that is coming up pretty soon, is going to be, well, even sooner than we thought. It's going to be available April 6th. Now, obviously, the problem with this is that you need to have an invite. You need to get a code from them. So if you haven't signed up already to be a part of this beta, go to quake.com and sign up now. There's no promise that you'll get an invite to this beta. I really hope that I'm able to get into it by April 6th. But they did say that even if you don't get an invite by April 6th to play it, you will be able, or they will be sending out invites to people after the fact to join. So you may have a chance, you will be able to join it after that. So even though it starts on the 6th, I don't know how long it's actually going for, but it sounds like you're going to have a chance to join. And let's hope that that's the case. If I don't get invited before April 6th, I really hope that I get invited, maybe the next weekend after that or whatever, because I'm really, really excited to actually check out this game. So good luck to everybody out there. I hope you get in. So of course, because we've been covering it the past few weeks, what's another update on it, right? We're talking about the mass flop here for Mass Effect Andromeda. Is it still a mass flop? Well, we found out that reviews for it were not so kind to the game, and listening to certain podcasts and reading other news features about the game, it's come to find out that, a lot of people are not really digging this game, and a lot of people are saying they don't really want to return to it, and that's wow, that is a big, big statement from a lot of these people who said they actually really, really enjoyed the original trilogy. What can you say to that? But regardless of how people feel about the game, it has sold really well. I guess they released some sales numbers from over in Europe, and the game was like #1 over there, even beating out Zelda for the month. So people were really, 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 really looking forward to the new Mass Effect. And can you blame them? It's a new Mass Effect game. People love the series, and as knowledgeable as we may be about games, there's still a lot of people out there who don't watch a lot of these videos. They don't listen to a lot of podcasts. They don't read a lot of news articles on games. They just know what they like. They see a new one coming out and they go buy it. I have a couple friends like that myself who don't keep up on it. They just know a new Mass Effect is coming out. They go and buy it. I tell them, hey, I heard that it's not so good. And then they end up playing it and they're like, I don't know, I don't really notice any of it. So I don't know. I don't know what to think of it. But regardless of what people have said about it, regardless of the critiques and the reviews, the game has sold well. So I guess the company has sort of accomplished what they want to accomplish. Though I did read another news article that said that the creator, or at least the people behind Mass Effect Andromeda, are looking for feedback on what they can improve for the game. So I don't know if they're planning on releasing a big patch for it that will fix a lot of these bugs and animation things and weird faces that show up and everything. I really don't know. So we'll see what happens in the future, and I guarantee this isn't the last we heard of the mass flop. Now, I know we don't really cover a lot of industry dirt, a lot of gossip and that kind of thing. I know that we covered the Carmack lawsuit against, Carmack against ZeniMax, where ZeniMax was suing Carmack, and John Carmack was then again, suing ZeniMax back for, royalties, whatever the issue was. We don't really cover that stuff here. We're mostly talking about games, but I thought that this was important to talk about. Palmer Luckey, who is one of the founders of Oculus, is stepping away from Facebook. As you know, that Oculus was bought by Facebook for $2 billion a few years ago, and then they released the Oculus, I believe it was the beginning of last year. But he's stepping away from the company, and you would think, why would he leave this billion-dollar industry? Well, they didn't say, there was no direct statement as to why he was actually leaving, but there's a lot of people who believe that it was because of what happened last year during the presidential election. So people found out that he was donating money to this sort of internet smear campaign against Hillary Clinton. Now, we're not here to talk politics. I really don't care who anybody voted for at this point. But the fact of the matter is that you know, as a figurehead for a company, it's in my opinion, it's never good to like pick a side in politics. You're really dividing your fan base at that point. And this is true in this case too, because a lot of the developers who were creating games for the Oculus basically said like, "Hey, I'm out," like, because you are, you know, doing this anti-Hillary smear campaign, or at least supporting it, funding it, whatever the case may be. A lot of the developers dropped out. A few of them did. And that's really bad news, because for the Oculus at this point, it sounds like it's kind of second to the Vive that Valve has put out. And we know how Valve is. Valve is super quiet. You don't have anybody talking about politics. You don't have anybody, you know, talking about funding whatever weird things, you know, for presidential campaigns and whatnot. They just put out the games and they put out the hardware and they keep Steam going, and that's it. And they make money. That's probably the way you want to go. You probably don't want to get found out that you're funding some kind of weird, you know, political thing, because it's not good for business. Again, like I said, don't care what side you're on, don't care what you're actually doing and who you support or whatever, but probably not the best idea to do that kind of thing when you're in business. So even though that wasn't exactly said as the reason for him leaving Facebook, it has to have something to do with it, you know. They must have noticed that a lot of their support was dropping off, and then he's like, listen, if I leave, then maybe you guys will, you know, get a lot of this support back. So I don't know. This is all conjecture at this point. This is all just assuming, and we don't want to assume. Let's just let the guy do his thing, move on. He's a billionaire. He'll be fine, right? So yeah, pretty interesting stuff there, though. And so our last news item for the day. This is going to get some people pretty excited, I think, but Call of Duty is rumored to be heading back to World War II. And if this is true, this would be the first World War II based Call of Duty since World at War, and that came out almost 10 years ago. I think it was 9 years ago at this point. That's a long time. It's interesting, though, because I think it's going to be the first if this is true, this will be the first World War II game in this generation of consoles for, you know, Xbox One and PlayStation 4. So I think this is probably going to have a lot of people excited. I have not played a Call of Duty game since 2010, maybe. It has been a long time. So I can't even remember the subtitle for the last one I played. Maybe it was Black Ops. I really don't know. I don't remember. But I remember wanting to play the one from last year, the one that was in space. So I don't know. I don't know if this is going to make me come back to it. I played a lot of those World War II games, you know, back in the early 2000s. I might have got my fill of it, but it depends. If they show this at E3 and it looks really, really cool, hey, maybe I'll give it a shot. But, you know, we always have Wolfenstein as well. Don't forget about Wolfenstein. Those games were pretty good. I almost forgot about those. Those are technically World War II based, even though they're fictional. But hey, you know, if this ends up coming out, people are excited about it, and this is what's going to get Call of Duty sort of back on track to get people excited about the series again, maybe it's the right way to go with it. So there you go, everybody. That is GGRC for the week. If you haven't already, please give me a subscription if you like the show. And if you haven't already, check out my other show, The Quake Rave, where I play through a lot of different old Quake maps and actually newly released Quake maps too. Believe it or not, Quake is still supported here in 2017, and the maps are still coming out. It's crazy. But definitely go check that out as well. And I hope you all have a great week, and I'll see you next time on GGRC. Thanks for watching, everybody. Don't forget to check out some of the other GGRC episodes. And if you're feeling a little retro, why not jump into the Quake Grave, where you can watch me play through a lot of different custom maps in Quake. Enjoy!